Welcome back to our channel, Soap Opera Enthusiasts. Today is a beautiful day to dissect the darkest corners of Port Charles, where a single moment of uncontrolled rage has shattered the lives of several major players. For months, the tension between Brook Lynn and Willow has been a slow-burning fuse, a quiet war of side eyes and unspoken resentment. Brook Lynn, driven by her deep-seated insecurities and a lingering fear of losing the life she has so carefully built, became utterly consumed by the belief that Willow was creeping far too close to Chase. It was a classic soap opera setup, a recipe for emotional disaster. We watched as the microaggressions piled up, each small interaction adding fuel to an already raging fire. But nobody, absolutely nobody, could have predicted the sheer violence of the explosion that was to come. It was not just a clash of personalities. It was a collision of two women pushed to their absolute limits, culminating in a secret meeting that would forever stain their hands. When they finally stood face to face in that secluded space, the air was heavy with unspoken venom. The confrontation was raw, ugly, and deeply personal. Words were hurled like weapons, cutting through years of fragile peace. As the argument escalated, the psychological barrier broke and the conflict turned physical. It was a chaotic blur of grasping hands, gasps of breath, and a sudden, violent surge of adrenaline. In a moment of absolute madness, Brook Lynn lashed out, her hands finding Willow's shoulders. One sharp, forceful shove. That was all it took. The world seemed to stop as Willow stumbled backward, her heel catching on the uneven floor. Her head struck the hard edge of a heavy wooden table with a sickening, hollow thud. Then, silence. A deafening, absolute silence. She lay completely still. Willow's eyes were closed, her face pale, and a thin, terrifying trail of crimson began to seep from her temple. Brook Lynn froze, her own breath catching in her throat as the gravity of what she had done crashed down upon her like an avalanche. She knelt beside the unconscious body, desperately shaking her, begging her to wake up. But there was no response. The Golden Girl of Port Charles was unresponsive, slipping into a deep, dark coma right before her eyes. Panic is a funny thing. It strips away your morality and leaves only the raw, primal instinct to survive. Instead of calling for emergency services, instead of doing the right thing, Brook Lynn made a choice that would seal her fate. She fled. When she reached Chase, she was a hysterical, trembling mess. The confession poured out of her in a torrent of tears and choked up sobs. For Chase, a man whose entire identity is rooted in the badge he wears, this was the ultimate trial of fire. He is a protector of the peace, a symbol of justice in a town overrun by mobsters and criminals. Yet, as he looked at his terrified, desperate wife, the cold handcuffs of duty suddenly felt suffocating. How do you choose between the abstract concept of the law and the flesh and blood woman you swore to protect? The struggle was agonizing. You could see the internal war raging behind his eyes. In the end, love, or perhaps a twisted version of it, won. He chose her. He chose the lie. Together, they returned to the scene of the crime under the cover of darkness. With hearts pounding against their ribs, they lifted Willow's limp body and transported her to a secret subterranean room, a hidden sanctuary where the rest of the world could not reach. It is a chilling image. A decorated police officer and a wealthy heiress playing nurse to a woman they have essentially kidnapped. Chase set up medical equipment, monitoring her vitals in the dim light, praying for a flutter of her eyelids. Every beep of the monitor is a ticking time bomb. Every breath Willow takes is a reminder of their shared sin. They are trapped in a prison of their own making, bound by a secret that is slowly poisoning their souls. But while they hide in the shadows, a storm is gathering in the light. Nina, a mother who has already suffered the unimaginable pain of losing a child, immediately felt the phantom ache of her daughter's absence. A mother's intuition is a powerful, terrifying force. When Willow's phone went straight to voicemail and her scheduled appointments were missed without a word, Nina knew. She felt it in her bones. Something was terribly, horribly wrong. If you ask me, there is nothing more dangerous than a mother pushed to the edge of despair. Nina's grief quickly transformed into a fierce, blinding determination. She would not let her daughter vanish into the ether. Not again. The search for Willow has quickly taken over Port Charles, turning the quiet town into a pressure cooker of suspicion. Nina has mobilized every resource at her disposal, throwing her considerable wealth and influence behind the investigation. She stormed into the police department, slamming her fists on the desks, demanding answers from a police force she believes is incompetent. The irony here is delicious and deeply tragic. The very man she is screaming at to find her daughter is the one who helped hide her. Chase has to stand there, maintaining a calm, professional facade while his stomach turns to ice. He has to look Nina in the eye and promise to do everything he can, knowing that if he succeeds, he destroys his own life. The psychological toll on Brook Lynn is immense. She is living in a constant state of hypervigilance, jumping at every knock on the door, sweating through every casual conversation. The guilt is a physical weight, crushing her chest. How long can a person survive under this kind of pressure before they completely snap? She looks at Chase and sees the shadow of the man he used to be, his bright integrity dimmed by the shadow of her crime. Their marriage, once a beacon of hope, is now a suicide pact. They are bound together not by love, but by the terrifying shared knowledge of what lies beneath the floorboards. This storyline is a masterclass in dramatic irony, and it opens up so many fascinating avenues for where the narrative could go next. What happens if Willow suddenly wakes up? Will she have amnesia, a classic soap trope that would buy Brook Lynn and Chase some temporary, agonizing peace? Or will she remember everything, her eyes filling with terror the moment she sees her captors? And let us not forget the other players on the board. Michael is still running his own schemes, completely unaware that the woman he is trying to manipulate is currently fighting for her life in a hidden bunker. If he discovers the truth, the wrath of the family will descend upon Brook Lynn with a fury unmatched in the history of Port Charles. We also have to consider the external factors. Lucy is out there, whispering in ears, and the threat of the hit-and-run investigation involving Jordan still hangs over Brook Lynn's head like the sword of Damocles. The walls are closing in from every single direction. It feels as though every storyline is converging on this one central lie. The writers have painted these characters into a corner, and the escape routes are rapidly disappearing. If you ask me, this is the most compelling Chase has been in years. We are seeing a good man turn bad for the sake of love, a classic, tragic arc that always ends in tears. As the search intensifies, the margin for error shrinks to nothing. A single misplaced medical wrapper, a slip of the tongue during an interrogation, or a sudden, unexpected visitor to their hiding spot could blow this entire conspiracy wide open. The tension is palpable, a thick, suffocating fog that hangs over every scene. We are holding our breath, waiting for the inevitable moment when the truth is dragged into the light. Because in Port Charles, secrets never stay buried for long. They have a way of clawing their way to the surface, destroying everything and everyone in their path. So, we have to ask ourselves, how far will Chase go to keep his wife out of a prison cell? Will he cross the ultimate line and silence those who get too close to the truth? Or will the crushing weight of his own conscience force him to betray the woman he sacrificed his soul to save? The stakes have never been higher, and the clock is ticking down to a devastating reckoning. You won't want to miss a single second of this heartbreaking spiral. What do you think will be the spark that finally ignites this powder keg? Let us know your theories in the comments below, and prepare yourselves, because the fallout from this lie is going to change the landscape of our favorite town forever.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.